everybody here. And we have 2 members online. And Bill, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, I muted him,
The
sorry.
group. You?
I did mute him, I clicked the mute.
You can
Oh, he's good.
unmute. Bill, can you hear us?
Yes, William Biederman, Middlebury, WIB.
Thank you. And Judd? Would you go ahead and
Judd Markowski, resident of Bridgeport, WIB member, and yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Go, girl.
Linda Barrett, clerk.
Trisha Allen, ACSD board rep.
Steve, where's that ACSD board rep?
Steve Rennie, MAUSD board rep.
Nick Colston, living in Shore, representing the ACSD.
Rebecca Goulet, business manager at Hannaford Career Center.
Kim Farnan, the community at large member from Abraham School District and chairperson.
I'm Nicole McTavish, I'm the superintendent/director. Christina Macklin, I'm Madison Northwest School District rep.
Dan Rosignol, Northwest Addison at large.
Wendy Pratt, assistant director.
Eric Lafayette, Energy Efficient Investments, project manager.
Patrice Alexander, administrative assistant.
Thank you, everyone. Our next item on the agenda is a tour of the main campus.
Cool. I'll lead the tour if people want.
Sounds
I guess,
good.
you want me to start?
Introduce the guests before we leave.
Fine,
I'm
we
just
can.
asking so I can put the
So you
names
want to
in.
put their name down, and I hope they're willing to stick around after we come back. So let's start here.
Dave Cole, resident of Wayward.
Daniel Houghton, resident of Middlebury.
Okay.
Dave Castle, resident of Waybridge.
Yahya Rahawi, a student at Middlebury.
I'm Dane Lieberman, also a student at Middlebury.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming today. We've had a long summer getting ready and pulling the place to where we are today in the building. We're still kind of punching out some different items in here. You'll see some random kind of blue tape as we try to get out of areas and make it as perfect as we can. But really proud of where we've gotten to this point. A lot of hard work went into it. We have guys still working at this hour right now, doing off hours, punch list stuff. I think you'll see maybe Gary Grant with Hammer Down. He's doing siding right now. One of the things that I thought was really just cool about this project in general is it was really a local workforce that got this done. I mean, Gary Grant, who's doing the siding, he graduated here in 2010. I think I wish I had marked them all down, but I bet there were 7 or 8 at least former grads that worked on this project, if not more, through various roles in the company. So a lot of local workforce got it done. I think we've really kind of touched almost every square inch of this building at some point through the process. A lot of, kind of weighing what the future of this kind of school is and really giving a new appearance and a new opportunity to start fresh. So I think that was kind of a theme throughout this summer of, let's not go back with the old or, be content with kind of this. Let's start fresh and give us this blank slate, which is a lot of white walls right now. But I think it's a great opportunity for kind of this new group to come in here and make the space their own. And then hopefully, make this, really that business professional atmosphere and tech center that is going to attract people into the workforce and that next stage in their career. So I don't know where we want to start. I'm happy to tour people around, but in this room in general, all new lighting that we did, that was, really last summer. We've gone through flooring throughout this place. This is a Furbo flooring, carpet squares. So you'll see a lot of the second floor in the classroom space. We utilize this. There's VCT, which is like more of a tile that you used in other areas. But why don't we, I guess, just walk around and I'll try to highlight some of the different things that we've done. And if anybody has questions as we go, feel free to reach out.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And next, public comment on agenda items only. Anybody have any comments about the agenda that's currently in front of us? Sir?
It's a question in the back of the room.
Got it. Thank you, Bill.
One detail, just that the document listing the iMac computers lists 10, and I would ask that be corrected to 20, which is the correct amount. And connected to that, I'm hopeful of trying to figure out why having a year and a half ago, after receiving written permission from the superintendent to entertain my class of very polite and committed college students during idle time in the Career Center, successfully doing so for a year and 2 classes, breaking nothing, and then meeting an interim superintendent who allowed our journey and took no action, brings me to today, where 90 minutes ago my student was marched out of the room so that he could not perform his teaching assistant hours, and causing confusion among the other students so that they could not find the TA. I am happy and willing to shut my class down for a week while I figure out my next step, but I'm struggling to figure out the abruptness of what's happening to me. I'm trying to connect it to why this effort to expand and enliven the makery with everything I have seems to be arriving here. I am told that the Career Center supports extracurricular activities in the space, and I am eager to see evidence of that, and I'm hopeful that a follow-up proposal attempting to bring 12 college students to assist teachers in the daytime program, of which I got 9 firm yeses. This would be a thing of value that enriches the daytime core mission of the program. Also receives no answer, and I'm trying to figure out what I should do with me quoted in the Addy Indy today, describing my enthusiasm and hope for the future of this place. And so any help in that would be appreciated. Thank you. And the 10 iMac computers are ready.
Obviously, it's under consideration. We have new administration. I asked personally, who are these people? And I think that's something that we have to figure out.
Are you new to the board?
No, sir.
Can you help me understand how a year and a half has transpired with you arriving at this moment of not knowing and thus reacting in the way? I'm struggling to understand how that much time could have
When you have
passed.
turnover in the administrative capacities, a lot of times they don't leave anything behind for us to follow. So
Yeah.
those are things that need to be researched, recovered, concerns about safety issues, liability issues, all of those factors, which I personally have questions
Yeah.
about.
And so,
Me
if I'm hearing
personally.
correctly, there was a full ban on the makery and all participation in the Career Center on the end of 6 years of successful operation until further notice.
Again, the documentation has not appeared.
So there is a ban on the makery and all participation in the Career Center at this moment in time, 4 weeks after.
I'm not going to respond to that question.
So there is not a ban on the makery.
Excuse me, I'm not going to respond to it.
Okay.
End of discussion, and that's not helping your cause by continuing this discussion. You're not technically on the agenda. You've managed to talk about your issue, I get it, but I'm not in a position to respond to it as the chairperson, and need to obviously consult with other members of the table and with our superintendent, who is in charge of this building.
Thank you for your
Okay,
time.
thank you.
Is there a time for public comment?
Excuse me?
Is there a time for public comment on this meeting?
As long as you're part of the agenda. I don't believe you really are. You've managed to make it that. And when you are on the agenda, if that be next month, fine. But I think that you need to give us time to do some research and do some things that to cover our liabilities within this building. You know, frankly, I'm gonna say it right now, walking into that room downstairs and seeing a machine operated by somebody who is not a student in this building, unsupervised, if anything had happened, there's a major liability issue. And that's my own personal opinion. Okay?
How does one get on the agenda for next month?
You speak to the superintendent and we make that happen. Okay?
Can't, don't we have public comment at the end?
Yeah.
public comment
At the end,
At the end. There is open public comment.
yes. But I also think he's taking a lot of our time right now
Sure.
about things that weren't on the agenda.
Yeah.
Steve?
No, that was my point, that there is an open public comment
Thank you.
at 7:10.
Exactly. But to do an official agenda piece really is important to get on the agenda so that you can address every other issue you may have. And give us a history, which clearly we might need.
I think comments at the end today might provide that history
Thank you.
for the next meeting.
Correspondence and donations. I think we have a couple, other than the IMAX.
We have some vehicles as well, yes.
We want to talk about that a little bit, or it's pretty much in the notes. Anybody have questions about them?
What are the cars being used for?
So they're donated to the auto shop and they become shop cars so that the students can take things apart, put them together, those types of things. And we get donations and then we rotate them in and out.
Okay. So they'll live in the shop until they are no longer useful and then
Then we
whatever.
scrap them.
We scratch them. So like when we accept these two, they'll be getting rid of some ones that you no longer have a lot of use because they've done it so many times.
Okay. Thank you. Sure.
Okay, any other correspondence that you're aware of?
Did we finish the consent?
Did we approve the consent agenda? Did I miss that?
We skipped over the consent agenda completely.
No, we're just talking about the correspondence.
Yeah, correspondence about
Thank you.
donations.
Oh, okay, I was thinking,
Yeah.
jump down to the
No,
donation.
no.
Oh, sorry, okay. My
It's
bad.
correspondence.
Got it.
Donations.
All right.
That's it.
Number
Not yet.
5527, I went down the road there.
It's okay. That's all right. Okay. Now, consent agenda. We're moving along. Christine was like, let's move on. We're good again. And I need a motion on that.
I'll make that motion since I was in a hurry.
It's okay. Payroll numbers. Do we have anybody that's going to speak to that at this point in time? What do we want?
Yes, that would be good.
Oh, thank you.
You want me to do it or you want to do it? I mean,
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I know that's kind of your thing sometimes. so I don't wanna
That's
keep
true.
it like-
I haven't done it for a few months.
So, August, we're still getting back up and running, so there weren't a lot of things that we paid. The general fund had two director's orders for a total of $59,569.91. Payroll, we had $76,623.50. We didn't have any expenses in adult ed. The revolving enterprise account was $25,4480. The student activity account paid out expenses in $10,229.85, and that was mostly related to the food booth at the Addison County Fair. Scholarship in the birth account did not have any expenses, and we did pay out out of the bond account, a total of $1.17 million to get the place up and running.
So I have a motion for Christine for the consent agenda. I need a second.
Awesome.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
And I see no opposition to that. Thank you. So we'll move on to the donations, the action items. So there was a correction from the group, was it 20 IMAX? Is that
So,
correct?
I will have to check because we actually asked Dan to write this up.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
And he told us 10, so certainly we will find out and
Okay.
make the correction if there's one.
Okay.
Or that, I'm sure that's correct, but I don't know why we thought they were 10.
And the two cars we briefly talked
Mhm.
about, and where they're going to be. Any other questions about that, about the cars?
Well,
Go ahead.
I think pretty generous of the college to
Yeah.
give us 10. I don't recall that happening before.
Or 20.
I know, right?
Even better. But I hope we write a nice thank you.
The, any conversation about where those computers are going to be used, or
I think they were just set up in this room.
they are?
No, there's nothing.
Oh, no.
They'll be, they'll be going back in the pile, Trudeau's classroom, the manufacturing room.
Okay.
We're waiting for some data drops on them as well.
All right, in your packet, there are two candidates that are interested in joining the board.
we need a motion?
Do we need a motion to?
Yeah,
or we need to-
on the donations.
For the donations, thank you. Motion?
So moved, we accept the donation.
Nick,
Second it.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So the new board members, their letters and resumes are in the packet. I'll speak to Sharon Meacham, who is working at Porter right now. And her cover letter, I don't believe is in here, but her resume is, if you want to take a look at that. She's been there for quite a while, had some opportunity to work over at the Hannaford section of the hospital also. I'm on a few committees with her and actually sat on the interview committee to hire her many years ago. But good person, very interested. Husband actually, if he did go to school here, he went to school in Middlebury. So she does have a serious interest in staying with us for a little while too. I think that's the other piece.
And are these, two candidates would be filling those seats that we, I forget how many it was.
The way.
Two, I was gonna say, we do have two, currently
Two,
have two
yeah.
open.
Two openings in the wood.
In the WIB or is it
Web,
RAC?
I can't.
forget which acronym was supposed to be.
I'm still stuck on the workforce development, but anyway, yes. And Brooke Small. Her resume's in there.
Did we confirm what the process was now? Did Frank Kenny's group need to look at these folks first?
So there's not,
Right,
a-
and-
there's not an official process. You all often entertain the nominations from his group. There
Okay.
isn't currently a nomination from his group that I'm aware of. Oh, wait, no, there is. There's the person who has a culinary background.
Right,
Okay,
in the past, right?
right. So sometimes they will put people forward for your, from their perspective that they think would be good. In this
Yeah.
case, these are the two we have. Brooke actually came to us from the Champlain Valley Farmers Coalition, which is, I don't know if they're a member of Frank of his group,
Yeah.
but they are also a industry sector, economic development group.
Right.
So Brooke is the number two in that organization. There's VJ and then she's the project manager there. I don't know her personally, but I do know that they're interested in having a voice on the board.
Right.
So,
We had talked briefly about importance of having somebody from agriculture.
Sure.
And,
Sounds like we're looking at
yeah, that would
both
be
of
the
them.
right. And Sharon, like I said, she's very enthusiastic. I actually had another candidate who's gotten very busy and recommended Sharon, so that's a good thing for us. Anyway, and Nicole said to me, she wasn't sure how we do this, but I'm gonna request a motion to accept them as board members, and we'll notify them. Well, they're pretty, I know I spoke to Sharon, but I'm not sure about their commitment level, and we can talk about that later, which committees and all the other things that they might be interested in doing.
So moved.
So motion to accept both candidates as board members. That we, excuse me, Dan second it, go ahead, Steve.
So, discussion. So, I wasn't clear about, you said someone was nominated by Fred Kenny's group that's not one of these two?
yeah, I'm trying to remember. That came forward months ago, yeah.
Yeah, and even looking at it, it was, had past interest in work in culinary, but it wasn't recent, and
Okay.
it was difficult to figure out, okay, what group are you representing, I guess, would like to.
I see.
Right, and from what I could, it was more, it wasn't the same, so it wasn't like Fred was saying, I think you should get this person. It was here's a resume of somebody interested. Right?
And then after getting the information from AOE about the historical piece, about 2004, I think, where we went back, it was clear that, they definitely have the right to make the decision. And it was just basically on numbers. set up. In other words, somebody from here and somebody from there and so on, as we already know. But there wasn't any other clarifying statements in there to indicate it must come from that group.
Okay.
Right, the language is just that they work in Addison County, essentially.
Right.
Right.
No, I mean, these are two important programs that we really represent here on the board, so glad we got them.
And I can speak personally that it's really important to the hospital to have us here. Very important to them. Any other questions? Bill? Judge? I don't know if Judge's still there.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. So all those.
I'm all good,
Thank you. All those in
I'm
favor of accepting the two candidates that have been put forth for board representation?
Aye.
Anybody against that? And it seems to have passed. Thank you.
Do we have a number yet, total board? Did we ever figure out what the board size could or shouldn't be?
We should be four now, unless I miscounted.
Yeah.
I think you're complete.
I know.
Per that question, folks, we were supposed to be able to at some point see a document about the original setting up of this board, and I've never seen it.
It was,
That kind of said, you know, what we were doing, what we could do, if we could expand it or not. Has that shown up?
yes, it came out in the board update. I can send it to you again, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
There was one of the
Yeah, it was one of
superintendent's
the-
reports.
The weekly superintendent reports?
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
a
Friday reports. Yeah.
But I'm happy to send it out again. It goes to the top. Yeah, I can send it right now, in fact. Let's do that. This way it's at the
Thank
top
you.
of your email.
Okay.
So the next item is phone upgrades, and obviously signifying from the Borough Fund as directed by the Facilities Committee. I don't know if somebody from the Facilities Committee wants to talk, or?
Well, I mean, Rebecca can fill in on the technical issues here, but it sounds as though we're, you know, the main Middlebury High School,
Mhm.
or their campus, including Mary Harmon, has, you know, they've discovered that their phone system is basically at a dead end. And sort of without really consulting with us on the future of it, they decided to buy what, from what I understand, is kind of a patch for like the next 5 years. And said, oh, and by the way, since you're hooked into the system, here's your share of it. And it doesn't really sound like we have much choice. At this point, we sort of have to buy into this thing for 5 years, but, and our share is about $9,000 and change, and now, while the Facilities Committee could authorize that amount to come out of the borough, I think up to 15 is the current limit. It felt like it might be a discussion we wanted to bring up the whole group, just so you understand kind of the dynamics of it, and also whether or not we want to start thinking about maybe investing more money in doing a standalone system and maybe getting that ball rolling. That might require a new RFP from either Flint State or somebody like Flint State, so that, you know, we can have a little more control over our phone system and maybe get some other features that this isn't going to offer, like voice over IP and maybe some better connectivity features. So at this point, I think Rebecca's looking for authorization to go ahead and spend the patch money, which, as I said before, you know, the facilities group didn't feel like we really had much choice about it, other than to sort of voice our uneasiness about being put in that situation in the first place. But it's really a patch. It's really not going to provide us anything more than the capacity we have now. But the phone system won't go down, it will still operate, and we can potentially, you know, put some effort into, you know, upgrading the phone system along with everything else we've been upgrading.
this number for 5 years worth of phone service?
I think
And
that's
do
what,
we pay anything at all right now?
No, we paid for the system over time. And so currently it's at the end of life, it doesn't have a warranty and doesn't have service. So this would be our portion to get the new software and get it up and running, and they're installing it.
Okay.
Oh,
It was kind of one of these things, I think, Bruce McIntyre had a discussion with John Perler, and then kind of landed on my plate later on, and they had kind of had a conversation, but no one else knew about it, and so when I got the bill, I was like, oh, we really need to have a discussion about that, and we did talk at facilities, like maybe once the dust settles from this project and we get a few other things done, maybe we reach out and get a phone consultant to do an RFP for us if we want, that's what the board desires going forward.
Something needs to be done. I played amount of games trying to get the, because I dialed your extension and went somewhere else, and they tried to dial and get to you, and it went somewhere else. It took about 5 different transfers to finally get to your phone, because nobody knew how that was working. And I've gotten voicemail messages, for somebody who's not even here, So it is pretty critical right now. Something has to be done, and I don't think you can get a new system right now.
No, we have to go out to bid and
Yeah.
getting the laborers and the parts that are near impossible and quick turnaround, so it would have to be a future project.
You're right, it is unfortunate, but it is necessary, absolutely necessary.
And just as a clarification, this 9,000 and change, this is one-time payment for the next 5 years.
Unless we add lines or
change.
do other
Right.
things like that.
But it's not like $9,000 a year for 5 years.
Yeah.
my question, does it include North Campus?
Oh, question. It does, they're all in the same system.
I would think.
Yeah.
But,
they include Mary Hogan.
And yeah, good.
yeah, the
Everything.
superintendent
So, yeah.
must be, yeah.
Yeah, they're all
okay.
getting it, yeah.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, any other questions? I'm sorry. Okay, so we need a motion to approve of that, coming out of the Burke Fund?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So moved.
Second.
Steve and Nick, do you need a few more words? You're good, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It's moved. Next item is the purchase of an e-vehicle car. And, I'm gonna ask Rebecca to explain why we're doing it and, some of those pieces.
Sure. So late last spring, we received a gear grant, and that was all around EV vehicles. We had applied for it last fall. With my understanding, we didn't get the grant, and then there was money left over, so they offered to us in the spring. And all that money has to be encumbered by the end of this month, and everything has to be on campus by the December 30th. So the grant was about getting a switch car, which is an EV car the kids would work, students would learn to work on. And it also provided money for us to purchase an EV car so that we have that as well to work on, and the kids can experience that as that's where the future is going. Gave us some money for other equipment that was approved. So we've been kind of trying to figure out what kind of car, what was their wish list. And there were some things that were just out of reach based on availability of cars and things right now. So we've been calling around. I did speak to the, I went to the bid list for the state to look for an EV car. And that list is expiring the end of October, and most of those cars aren't available anymore. So did some calling around, did reach out to the National Fleet Source, which is part of the Vermont State bid. They could honor the bid, but they couldn't get a car here until probably March or April, which doesn't meet the guidelines of the grant. So we did call some local purveyors. We talked to Benson, Chevrolet in Ludlow, and then we talked to Key in South Burlington. Key actually has a car on site that we can pick up next week if we were able to. And so how this runs is in the grant, we're allowed up to $45,000 to buy an EV car. It won't cost us any more than $38,000 depending on which dealer we end up getting, finish negotiating with. And the balance of the money that was put aside for the car, we can move 10% in the grant, so we'll be able to buy more materials for the students as well. So in working with S.C. Jones up at the auto shop in David Mills, we decided that in our price range, the best use for us would be to get a Chevy Bolt. And that's what we're kind of coming to you and asking. It's not any money out of our general fund, it is grant money. If we don't spend it, we use it. So I'm here asking tonight to be authorized to enter into an agreement with either one company or the other, depending on pricing, so that we can get that encumbered and meet the grant requirements by the end of the month.
Questions?
Did you inquire, look,
We did.
Is there anything in the middle, Addison?
We,
Area?
Mackin, we reached out, they didn't have any EV cars available or any that were coming down the pipeline right away to meet our time frame. So we had to kind of reach out a little further.
It seems to have come up very quickly, but I mean, we didn't discuss it at the facilities
We were just, well, it wouldn't come up in the facilities.
or the budget,
Yeah.
the budget.
We didn't realize that it had to be done so quickly because the grant came so late, and then kind of the alarm went off, and we're like, oh, we have to move quickly. So that's what we're doing now. We were able to send someone for training in August, and then Essie will go to training in California, which is all part of the grant.
Okay.
We weren't part of the first round of this grant. It came up, more funds became available later, and then they gave us all an opportunity to apply again. And by the time I got here, we were just learning that we had that grant, but that we had to spend all the money by the end of September and have everything in hand by the end of December. So
It's a pretty quick turnaround.
we're very happy to have it. We're just working quickly.
And we've encumbered everything, we've got everything done except for the car right now. Everything else has been encumbered, or we've actually got some of the stuff in. The actual switch car will be here sometime in November. So we are trying to fill our duties on this one.
Do we already have a charging station?
As part of the project, we have 3 charging stations in place, and I just need to activate them. I'm waiting for a QR code from the company. There'll be one at North Campus and 2 here.
I'll make a motion to purchase the EV car.
I'll second that.
Jean, second. Any other questions? Doesn't sound like it. All those in favor of that motion? Say aye. Thank you.
Very exciting.
Anybody opposed to the motion? Thank you. So the board conference is scheduled in Fairleigh. Probably looking at who's interested in going. Some I think have already talked to Patrice, but anybody else planning on going? Bill, are you planning on going?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
When you say board conference, you're
The
talking about
VSBA.
The SBA.
This is where they have the 2-day new member
Mhm.
program as well.
Yeah, there's a variety of different things that they offer. You can go 1 day, half day, doesn't matter. But if you are interested in going, obviously it's better with a group rate. So
Okay.
you could let Patrice know. Maybe
Okay.
She'll let Rebecca know, in regards to paying for it and all those pieces.
We're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
Anyway.
I should go.
I'm gonna be out of town.
I have
Otherwise
too.
would go.
Thank you. I have too, and I complained because it was still in Fairleigh. They didn't care. I said, what about
Go
Burlington?
there.
Yeah, it's a hike, but anyway, for some of us. All right, any questions about that? I guess I'll probably ask this question right now. Is everybody, especially new members, getting information from VSBA? That's another piece. I wanted to make sure.
Twice.
I know.
What is the action item
The action item is somebody, well, if only Bill is going, it's easy, but somebody needs to vote on the behalf of this board.
Right.
here? Right, there's 2 items here. One of them is board conference in Fairleigh.
Right, which we just talked about.
That's
There's
just
no
discussion,
action.
no action.
No, only because we need to know who's going. And, I know Bill has, because he's contacted me, but I didn't know if anybody else was interested, so it's kind of a reminder
All right.
statement.
We don't have to make a motion.
No, we do
We're
not.
good to go.
No, we do not. So, next comment is a designated board member or representative, I'm going to add, to vote on behalf of the our board. Bill, what type of commitment were you planning on making to go down to that conference? 2 days, half a day?
2 days.
Okay, thank you. So, would you be willing to be a representative of the board, inviting, and voting the amendments that they've listed? And I think those were listed in the printed book about the items that you're looking at. Yes, thank you.
Resolution.
The resolution. Some are, yeah, I think.
Anyway. I'd be fine with that, and if the group has any other ideas or complaints, I'd be happy to deliver those.
Okay, thank you. You have the paperwork for that? You want?
Yeah, Bill, I can work with you. I have the paperwork that you need to take to be able to vote on our behalf, so we can work
Just
on that.
present it.
Okay.
Okay.
The question comes up when you do send a voting member, is that then you have to, the board needs to state their opinion about these resolutions. If we don't send a voting member, then we just authorize the VSB to vote by proxy, which means essentially the VSB votes whichever way they feel best on our behalf.
Right, and in that booklet,
Explain the difference between
Right.
the two options that we have.
right, and in the booklet, there's some comments in regards to, how they feel about it, what they think, yay or nay, I guess just wait for it.
So, when is this conference again? February?
26th and 27th of October.
Right, in Fairleigh.
Right, so if we're going to ask Bill to vote on our behalf, then we need before that time to have stated our own opinion as a board about how we want Bill to vote. So, we have time to do that, is the question.
We have a meeting before.
Yes,
We
we
do
do.
a board meeting.
So,
that
but
on the
it behooves
agenda.
everybody to take a look at it, so we're not
Right.
sitting here going.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have another meeting, so we can do that. In the past, we've done both,
Yes.
what you're talking about, we've done both.
Yeah, right,
And I think at one point Dana was our representative because nobody went,
right.
And he was, he
Our
went.
school district doesn't review all the resolutions. We are putting forth a resolution of our own, and we voted on that. We talked
Okay.
about that, but we didn't talk about
All of them.
all. Just,
Yeah, and you can also say, Bill's just going to vote the way the VSBA
Recommends.
recommends.
Right.
Yeah.
That could be the other option as well.
yeah,
So it's not that we all have to spend an entire meeting
Yeah.
debating all of their resolutions,
yeah,
but
Right.
that's just the logistics of how this works.
yeah.
So I'm hearing you would like to add that to the next board agenda.
Well, I think we should
Got it.
make it
Okay.
official,
Just making sure.
which way we want Bill to vote and how we want to, if anybody has any objections to how the VSBA feels about any of these things,
Yeah,
maybe that's the way we want to handle it. Instead of like
Right.
picking every single one of them and debating them all the way through, you say, read the resolutions, read their recommendations.
Yeah, if you have a
any
question.
objections, bring those up and we can talk about the objections.
So I need a motion to designate Bill Bitterman as the board representative on behalf, and attending the VSBA board meeting in Fairleigh. You can rewrite that any way you want.
Yeah.
I was trying
So
to tag
moved,
it.
as she said.
I'm trying to tag everything. Here we go.
Second.
Steve? Thank you. All those in favor? Any-
Aye.
All right,
thank you, Bill.
thank you, Bill.
Anybody
Yeah.
opposed? Thank you, Bill.
Could I ask a question on the discussion about, are we getting VSBA? I'm not, Tricia, you're getting direct emails from VSBA?
I am, but it may be through my ACSD.
Okay, so I'm
email
not.
at
So
this
you're not-
point.
okay. So,
I think I get it from here.
Yeah, they said something about once a
I
week.
get, I get 2 copies every month.
Okay.
There you go.
I think you can poke them.
you can poke them.
Right.
The other thing is there's a booklet they also send out. A lot of times it's kind of
They sent a mailer, but you're not getting emails, you're trying to get.
yeah, you're not getting the
No.
booklet either.
No, okay.
So, you want to give them a twinkle and say, hey,
Okay.
I'm on this board. We'd appreciate any correspondence. Like, for instance, a legislative update. They go through a bunch of different categories that they talk about. Reports on the board meetings that they have.
Okay.
Any other additional trainings There's a lot of podcasts that you can just look at
Okay.
anytime,
All right, I'll,
which I find
It
helpful.
might be worth, Kim, having somebody put together the list of all the board members we have now, including these new ones.
Yes.
Send it to Sue or whoever.
Right, I'll send it to Sue.
And say, can you just check these names?
Sure, we can do that.
good, yeah, the other two, and put me in.
But everybody else here has been getting something, so
Yeah.
that was my initial question. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Judd, have you got anything from the VSBA?
No, thank you.
Hey.
Hey. So, next item is the process of signing bills. And again, this is, not necessarily a vote, but kind of an open discussion about, traditionally, unfortunately, Rebecca sends out and says, hey, I need 2 board members here on Thursday to come and sign. Now, I'm curious about what happens at Mount and Virginia.
No, I think it's electronic. You send out an electronic document and we all sign it electronically.
Okay,
And that's every single board member.
okay.
wow.
And I've always asked this question because
Go ahead.
I thought maybe this was the sort of thing that the state mandated had to be done a certain way, but apparently each board has their own ability to do this. But at the state does require that the board in some capacity approves these requisitions.
Mhm.
But how that gets done, I guess, is up to you.
So is that, everybody has to sign, or is it a majority, or?
It's an Adobe product that basically you set this thing up, it starts out on an email chain, and it can get held up by anybody who doesn't look at their email. So we get pinged a lot because somebody's forgotten to sign.
Moving along.
Yeah.
So you're actually like reviewing, the,
You can review them as much as they're all included.
okay,
But the main thing is you have to sign.
Yeah.
There's like 12 different places you have to sign. It's all just electronic signature. With 2 people, it might not be so onerous, but I'm assuming in this new financial package you put in together, you have some capacity to do
It
that.
would be easier in the future to do it. Doing it right now would be pretty cumbersome.
Yeah.
Traditionally, both here in ACST, it's in the finance committee and budget committee. I don't know if that's signed.
Okay, so members from those committees,
Yeah.
is it assigned, is it random?
In both cases, well, at ACST, it's only 3 people. So
Right.
2 people have to sign it. And if they.
See, I thought this was all Nick's responsibility until he started playing golf. I don't know why we have to deal with it.
It is, but he's trying to
What's
get
the
out
sum
of it.
of it?
He's been playing golf.
But if she can get 2 people or 1 person's not available because there was some travel and stuff, you know,
Right.
it's the board. Anybody on the board can sign it, but traditionally it's been people in finance.
Yeah.
So it's just the finance committee, that's
Just the finance.
3 members?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Virginia?
yeah, and as in Northwest, that's how it happens too. The finance committee does, 2 people have to sign off, and anybody on the board can step in if they need to. But we also, the treasurer reviews every
The final-
single
yeah.
check and transaction, every month, so.
The treasurer is a board member? or-
No, the treasurer is
Yeah.
separate.
That's
Yeah.
electric.
No, we do the same
So
thing.
so we do the same. thing.
Right, yeah, that must be true for all the school districts.
Mount Abe does that too?
I can't speak to that.
I gotcha.
specifically, but-
Okay.
Yeah, so just how to alleviate Rebecca being in a bind every.
Right.
I don't know if it's just timing, and because it's difficult to predict, like on a Thursday morning, whether I'm gonna be available or not, I don't know sometimes, and so I can do it sometimes, and sometimes I can't.
Right.
Go ahead.
So I did a poll of some of my colleagues and how I used to do it in my former district. We would do the warrant, we call them warrants here, the director's orders here. We would have 1 board member sign off on them. And then the treasurer could sign the checks and we could send everything out. And then at the board meeting, it would be part of the consent agenda and it would be accepted. Talking to some of our colleagues around here, I did talk to Elizabeth and I talked to Matt, and then I talked to Rutland Northeast. And they're actually the most liberal ones, to be quite honest with you. The board authorizes the superintendent and the administrative assistant to the curriculum director to sign orders. And then it's just brought to a consent agenda at the board meeting. Some other places like Maple Run, which also has a tech center, the central office prepares the warrants. They have 2 individuals in the office review it, which is hard because we don't have a large office. The central office prepares the checks, the treasurer signs, the checks get mailed out, and the board does a full review at their meeting as a consent agenda. So there's a lot of different ways. I did link it in the agenda. I think for us, because we're so small, we don't have the capacity in the office to have a lot of checks and balances. So I think maybe the board could talk about maybe morphing some of these together and coming up with something that might work for everybody.
Is it possible for you to, like, if we met an hour prior to our board meetings, that we could do it, like, could rotate or something?
Well, the problem with that is that the payroll schedule doesn't follow, and that's kind of the
That's the
issue,
whole issue.
right?
Okay.
In some districts where I was before, like the payroll, the superintendent could sign off and we could let it go. And then, you know, we could do the APs, but, you know, we do AP checks and student activity counts at least every 2 weeks. Like this week, we ran another batch because we were trying to get caught up on everything. So, you know, it's really important, I think, that we follow the payroll schedule and have someone available, or however the board wants to move forward. We can
But
cer-
you know what the payroll schedule is, right?
Right.
What is that?
So you can
It's
publicize
Thursday.
the dates that you need.
Yeah, the schedule's all in there right now.
It is.
And they're ready Thursday mornings.
We used to get them earlier, before. We used to get them Wednesdays. That's not possible.
Well, it might be possible in the future, but because I was the only one doing
I
stuff.
know, I know.
I was trying to maximize my time, right? And, you know, it will change too when we get to the new financial system, but just trying to come up with a path to get these things signed so that it's not 4 o'clock on Thursday and I'm like, I can't have the treasurer come to sign off on the payroll checks because no one signed them, so. There's a lot of different ways that we can try a way, and if it doesn't work, we can certainly change it. It doesn't have to be set in stone, but it's really up to the board to decide what works best for the organization.
Yeah, so you're putting a calendar right now that says, pay orders.
I'm not doing a count, I'm sending out an email like as an SOS.
No, but I
Yeah.
got a calendar alert on my.
Well, I think Suzanne set that up.
So is it-
I don't.
Suzanne set something up, but I don't know what happened to
It's the
that.
same board calendar that says the board meeting is there.
Oh, really?
I don't know if everybody knows how to plug
So
their,
today.
how to plug board calendars into their Google Calendar or their Apple Calendar or whatever calendar they're using.
Yeah, well,
But
it's a possibility, but there has been some discussion. Dr. McTavish and I talked about getting something like, looking into something like Board Pack or Board Notes to make it a lot easier to communicate with that kind of stuff, because those packages really do streamline that kind of communication and make the documents available. Like here with all the electronic linking that Patrice has to do and all the, you know, kind of files are here and files are there, Board Pack and Board Notes, they do a really good job of centralizing all that information. Plus, it's a really efficient way to bring up a calendar that just shows the board's business. And it's got everything on there, when the next meetings are, who's attending, you know, and a little place where you can check to say whether you're gonna attend or not. It really does. We use Board Pack over at ACSD, and it really is helpful. So I think we were gonna talk about that, and possibly add it to an agenda item on one of the board meetings, but we just hadn't gotten around to saying, you know, which meeting it's gonna be at. This meeting was kind of full.
Yeah, well, I would think that would be kind of cool to allow us to maybe assign people to do it. You know?
Steve, we're gonna add it to the next board meeting, just to have this conversation. If you could get a little more information, that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Because we've had so many turnovers in
Right.
a variety of capacities of administrators, there's a lot of information that's falling by. We also, some of us got a email alert that was generated by a former employee here.
Yeah.
There were other former board members on there, they were texting me going, I thought I was off the board, you know, it's very confusing. And that isn't even something that Patrice or anybody at this table can
Right.
control, so we need to make that a little more efficient.
Yeah, but Steve's talking about, like, do you guys know how to do, and I'm like, well, let's hold off on that a second before
Yeah.
we do a whole bunch of board training.
Exactly.
Because this could make all that kind of obsolete.
Sure.
So,
The reason why I even brought it up was just that part of my problem is that I don't really, when you're throwing out the SOS, that's pretty much last minute, and
Yeah.
Thursday's already sort of assigned.
That's
But
my
but if
question.
we said, hey, look, we're gonna do this on a rotational basis, schedule it out ahead of time, people could say, like, I can make a window, you know,
Yeah.
a month from now on the second Thursday to do payroll. You know, just because it's board work, we gotta make a window, make an appointment, basically, and
Put it on the calendar.
I would vote for a sign-up sheet, you know,
Right.
maybe
Yes,
3
so-
months worth
Okay.
or something, and 'cause
Yeah.
you can usually commit
Is that a-
3 months out,
something-
at least, to, yeah.
at least you can plan to like,
Yeah,
have it
exactly.
watched by somebody else, and
I
then
mean, that's usually why I can't do it, it's too.
If we do a sign-up sheet and you can't make it, it's your responsibility to get somebody else
Yeah,
to
you need
do
to find
it.
somebody
We're
else.
gonna sign up like that, okay? Because that's, you know, and we should put the sign-up sheet someplace where we can actually see it.
And
Yeah.
like Steve's program would be a perfect place for that, you know. But in the interim, maybe Rebecca could at least put out the sign-up sheet and understand who those people are and ping those people when the SOS comes to make sure they're,
Just
they
like the
didn't
dentist
forget.
office, right, it's a reminder.
In weeks that we have, like, the facility meeting, if I know if people are coming
Right.
to campus, and we have the finance meeting and people are coming to campus, it's a good time to take advantage of that when they're here, if they're having to follow those weeks, but I can send a sign-up sheet, like, now through the end of the calendar year,
Yeah.
and
That
get
works.
that set up, and then we can reassess it.
Yeah.
Everybody agreeable to that?
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit of time, look at the, you know,
That's fine.
the day, and let Rebecca know when you can swing by.
And it requires you to come here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, so.
So Rebecca, were you asking about whether or not the superintendent could sign off on some things?
I was just saying that other districts do
Yeah.
do that, right?
But would that make your life easier, or?
Well, but obviously, if someone's in the building that can do it, it's a lot
Right.
faster,
Right.
right? And it takes the burden off of you folks.
I mean, I wonder if we should discuss that.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm not against looking at other options, for sure.
So it's having one signature,
For some of the stuff right now, you still have to review some stuff, the board does, right?
Well, especially with payroll, because that's kind of a given thing, it has to be done, it might be advantageous to maybe designate, one of the members of the administration to sign off on. I'm currently doing payroll, so I shouldn't be signing off on it, but
Right.
either Wendy or Nicole could right now.
Yeah.
And that would expedite the payroll, so like, even if we couldn't get the checks signed, the accounts payable checks, people are still getting paid.
Yeah.
and that's
That's
a two-week
important.
rotation.
And then they just.
Personally, I feel that the board should be involved,
Yes.
That's right.
reviewing.
Yep.
I don't think 11 people are needed.
No.
I think 2 are enough.
Yeah.
But I think we need to fulfill our financial responsibility.
Well, happy to put the calendar together through the end of the calendar year, and we can always talk
You
about
can
that
review it
again.
again, if we're
It
having
can be
trouble.
changed
getting-
See how
anytime.
it goes.
You don't
Some
get any
more.
volunteers, that's another issue.
Some boards, like Maple Run, they do it every March, they make a new, they talk about what the process is gonna be, so maybe when March comes and we reorganize or there's people up, we can put it on the calendar for that too. But I think we got a lot of flexibility about how it can be done, we just have to put a plan in place that works for everybody.
And now you have an idea.
So what I'm hearing, straw poll, is, Rocco put out a schedule, make sure you find it in your email, and, sign up. If that doesn't work by the end of the year, then we'll obviously review it again. But in the meantime, we'll put what you guys have over at Middlebury on the agenda, so if you wanna have a little more detailed discussion.
Can't do a little dog and pony and.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, you talked about it, but, maybe we could see it.
I mean, we can't do that, but hopefully we could get because I know I can find people that do board packing, and they'll come and do dog and pony show for us. So we just have to work out schedules on that one.
Right.
And board pack is the one we use over there. It's not the only one that's out there. So we can ask for that. I mean, I have some energy to do that because I really believe in what's working over there.
That'd be interesting for Johnny to understand.
Yeah.
Because they go through the same kind of hoops we're going through here too.
Yeah, and so I think it's worth it for me to do. It's not free, but it's, for what we paid for it, it is definitely worth it,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
Years ago at Mount Abe, if you went to the meeting and maybe you went too early, you didn't during the meeting. It was crazy, but it got done, and, you know, people got to take a look at it, but, it's not a major educational process, that's for sure, if you haven't done them yet, but, and some weeks are a lot less than others. I don't see a need for a motion on that at all, but a good discussion, thank you, everyone. And that's what the intent was when we talked about it earlier, it's just to get the, what everybody else is doing. It's enlightening, thank you. Clarification for the next item is, in the past, some of the board meetings that we've had for facilities and so on, an administrator has stepped up to take the minutes, and I don't believe that that's a responsibility that they should have, and that each individual chairperson of those committees can decide what they'd like to do, but I think it's the responsibility of the committee to take the minutes. And they can be brief, it's not a big difficulty doing it. Steve, thank you for stepping up at our last meeting, and they were great. I mean, that's basically what we covered. But I think, again, as Nick said earlier, it's an opportunity for us to participate in completely about what we're doing on these subcommittees. So that's kind of a clarification.
And I'll give a shout out to Tricia for stepping up and doing it for policy, because that's not
Thank
an easy
you.
one to do.
No, that is not an easy one.
And
Thank
she
you.
has really done a great job doing that for us, so.
No, it's good, good to clarify that too, because, Jay was doing it.
Yes,
Right, and Jada did it one time for some, you know, it just got a little, and it was fine, but, you know, it's important, I think, that we participate in that process. If you have a question along the way, and what did you say? You know, it's never a bad thing to ask those questions. Anyway, one of the other things I was trying to think that we talked about, I'm not sure if it's on here. It's regards to if you, for instance, you're attending the conference, you need to let somebody know here. And the way that works probably the best is to let Patrice know, and she in turn gives the information to whomever needs to pay the bill, I guess is the word for it. It's an important piece, or pre-approval for anything. You know, we don't necessarily spend a lot of money or anything like that. But say somebody decides to get a gift for somebody or whatever, say they're retiring or whatever the process is, it needs to go through, in my opinion, the same process as it does for the faculty and the staff in this building. And I think, you know, just to clarify, that piece is an important part of daily workings. If you have any questions, you know, definitely feel free to call, and they'll walk you through what you need to do. But yeah, I think it's an important part of the pie. Anyway, so the VSBA represented to annual meeting.
We did that, somehow we got
Yeah,
that twice,
we
sorry.
got on there twice, but anyway,
Well, the visit,
This is for the.
we didn't do
This is a different
VSBA.
one?
This is
Yeah.
for
This
VHI.
was in-
Okay,
Okay.
so
I
VHI,
should have said before.
go ahead.
Yeah.
VHI, not Bisbee?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
Are
So
we appointing Nicole?
go ahead.
we have proxies for both the dental and the health from VHI for the proxy. It's the same thing that we would do with Will, just asking who has the authority to vote on our behalf, or do we just want to appoint the board of directors to do it?
This is a separate conference from the.
It's at the same conference, but it's a different
different-
strand, so to speak.
It's a different.
Above you guys go?
It's a different voting body.
I'm not, because I can't stay overnight. It's
I
too
could
far
go
to
for
drive
one
back
day.
and forth.
Mm.
Okay.
It is.
If I don't have any conflict, I am planning
So it doesn't have to be an administrator.
No, it could be a board member, you can even,
Okay.
could be
Maybe
any.
Linda, if we want to send Linda.
Yeah, it just has to be a designate.
Just has to be designated.
Right.
Bill's, you know Bill's going for
Yes,
sure?
maybe
Thanks.
Bill's.
So
Bill?
you're gonna be able to go to all those.
I don't know what the schedule is
Yeah.
for that.
Steve, you're going though too?
I am.
What am I getting volunteered for now?
We can certainly.
It's okay, Bill, we'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah, and then they can figure out.
Yeah.
Typically, when this comes up at night, the first thing is that somebody talks about what's on the table here to be voted on. And usually, it's very mundane. I mean, behind this, it's insurance stuff. There's nothing really earth-shattering about what they're voting on each year. And that's the first thing to understand. If there's really no major business is going on, not some big policy change or something, then letting them vote by proxy for us is a very easy thing to do. So it's a question really of what's on the table for the vote. And again, we could maybe take some time to figure that out and talk about that when we're talking about the resolutions for the general meeting. But I suspect, from what I recall, because this already came up at 9/8, there was no reason for us to get really involved in the vote.
Yeah, we approve our superintendent.
Yeah, I think typically we put superintendent.
Whoever was going to be at the meeting could vote,
Exactly.
or we could just let it go by proxy either way. So if Bill's there, Bill could vote.
Yeah.
And when Steve decides if he wants to go, then,
I want to go, and I'm committing to go. I just need to check my calendar at home and see if I
Gotcha.
have conflict.
and that's something we can vote on next meeting,
Yes.
by the looks of it.
We tables. Okay.
So let's table it for the moment. Everybody okay with that?
All right.
You will be voting for ACSDs.
No, I gotta go. This vice chair.
Vice
Yeah, I
chair.
learned how to do that.
That's right.
So the first readings of the policies, what stage are we at?
I'll be happy to take that part of the
Thank you.
meeting over if you don't mind.
Not at all.
So, part of the policy review stuff is that you're supposed to review things every year, but if anybody who's been on this board already knows that we sunset all of our policies at the end of last year and adopted all of the required policies that the SBA put in place. The SBA then immediately, in the middle of August, decided it was going to update 11 policies, some of which we have, most of which we don't. Many of the updates, out of the 11, I think it was something like 6 of them, were format-only changes, so they don't require us to change anything. So if you look at the model policy manual that the SBA does, those are just saying, look, the lawyers have looked at these, and these need statute and required are usually the things like the fire drill. It's something that the legislature has required us to do. So that was why we said we had to take all the required policies, and we looked at some of the recommended policies. When VSBA did their Big 11 update, it only affected 4 policies that we had adopted. And I thought that rather than push this off, that the ones that had substantive changes might be things that we could update now. Most of them are fairly minor, but some of them require clarifications that probably would be in our best interest to have at least those policies as put forward by the SBA. So what the policy committee did was we looked at 5 policies, one that we have not adopted, and 4 that were changes that would put us better in line and clarify how we do things here. So we looked at those 5 policies. They've been included here. For those of you that don't remember, to adopt a policy or to modify a policy requires first reading of the board, to be presented, and you guys have a chance to look at them, and then you get a month until the next meeting when they get approved When you can look at them, come back and ask for explanations or clarifications or say, hey, we think this is wrong. So what we just need tonight is to get these policies in front of you, to explain what they are, and to kind of walk you through, not in detail, what the changes you should look for. Problem is, the SBA doesn't do a very good job of, when they release these policies. A good way to do it was, if you ever seen the line through policies, where they put a line through what they got rid of, and then red, put what the new, yeah, the SBA doesn't do that. They just kind of say, yeah, we changed this, and you gotta read the whole policy to find where it's changed. And I have made a suggestion to them that it would be much more helpful to us to do that. So what you have here are non-red line or non-strike-through red line policies. What happened was we looked at the things that changed from what we had, and we modified what's in your packet right now as to how the policies would read if we were to adopt them for us. So this has gotten rid of a lot of the SBA verbiage. So if you go in there on a policy, you're gonna look at that and you're gonna go, wow, that looks a lot different from ours. It doesn't really. They have some options in those policies. So these are more clean readings of what policies would be that we would adopt, okay? So I'm just gonna quickly go through the 5 and I'll spend a little bit more time on the one that we don't have that would be a new adoption. It is a required policy, but you'll see in a minute why we probably should have it. It's not really important, okay? So let's start with the tobacco prohibition. That would be B7. Although it's a long policy, the only thing that really changes in here is this stuff about administrative responsibilities. And so you might want to read through them. As I recall, it was the paraphernalia and mays changed, or shalls changed to mays. And so, again, this is the problem with not having a red line policy. I can't put my eyes right on it where the changes are. But anyway, this is the new version. The current version is available on the website. So if you want to read that one and see what's changed, this would be the new one that we would adopt. Okay? So sorry I can't give you more. I probably should have gone through here and highlight that. But really, in this case, they weren't big changes. There's just a few words that change for the tobacco policy. And as I recall, it was around paraphernalia.
It's interesting that they would use the word may.
Yeah.
These procedures may include.
Right. And that was a shall. But I think that.
Well, that was a shall in there.
It was a shall, and it changed because the law changed.
Oh, I see.
So.
They're not making it mandatory.
Yeah, because here it says, if you look at note 2,
Yes, that's
public schools boards may adopt policies. So since the statute changed, they wanted to change the policy. Okay.
I think on that particular one, the reason that they changed it to May is because there are a lot of feelings around referring kids to law enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, if you have any quick questions, great, but this is just to tell you, give you kind of an overview of the policies that we're looking at. The real discussion will take place next time, and next time you'll be asked to vote whether we're going to change the policies or not, okay? The second one is C3, transportation. This is the policy that we do not have. It is required, but it revolves around transportation. And there are 2 options in the VSBA model policy. It says option A is the one that we are suggesting here, is the policy of the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District not to furnish transportation to school. That's the way it works right now. This is not a change. The sending schools are responsible for transporting students here. And this is not about field trips. This is not about special transportation. This is about regular transportation for a normal school day. So that's what this one is about. And we do not furnish transportation. We have historically not furnished transportation. I don't think we should start doing that. Okay? The definition of what a legal pupil is and what the administrative responsibilities, those are kind of, just language that should be in there just because the policy deals with transportation, because they address statute. Okay?
Then my only comment
Yeah, I
is
saw
you don't
that,
need
yeah.
a definition for something that's not used in the policy.
Well, they had it, the way it was worded,
If you're not using legal pupil somewhere else in the policy, you don't need to define it.
okay.
Just a nitpicking point.
Sure, and this was how VSBA had it on their
Right, but
policy.
they probably have, it's probably used
It's,
somewhere else.
yeah, the policy's written as an either or, and each
Right.
category has either or sections, and definitions was one of the spots that didn't have
Didn't have
either
it.
or, which,
Yeah, just.
yeah, I agree with you, but,
It didn't make sense, actually, when we first looked at it, we said, oh, well, all we gotta do is adopt the statement of policy, and then somebody pointed out that, well, actually, later on, it does say, well, if you do provide transportation, you do this, but the other ones, the definition of the administrative responsibilities were not, it kind of looks like it should be in both of them, the way the VSBA had it. So I can ask for clarification, I can call them.
No, it's just when you're writing a policy,
I agree.
you don't have to define something that you're not going to use in the policy.
yeah.
I agree. But as, my
Unless you
position,
wanted to say up above,
yeah,
not to furnish transportation, not to legals to the school.
okay.
Then it would.
My personal feeling, my personal feeling is that we let the VSBA lawyers write these policies, and I think we open ourselves up a little bit if we decide to change what they say.
Absolutely.
So, if they're quoting statute here, that makes me uneasy to drop that. It's the pleasure of the board. I mean, this is just a recommendation from the policy committee, so.
It just seemed odd to me.
I agree. Okay, but that would be the new one.
Yeah.
All right. The rest of these, again, this hopefully isn't going to be painful, but D4 is a required policy on comparability. We do have this policy, however, it only applies to Title I schools and districts. If you were to say that North Campus was a separate school, we would be a district with 2 schools. But we also have, you would also have to qualify as a Title I school, which we don't. No matter how you slice the programs, we're not a Title I school. So even though this is not something that applies to us, having this on the book says that we do not fund Title I schools differently. So. Okay? And again, please, I don't want to take, board meeting time to do this, but please read through these, and if you have any questions, bring them to the next meeting. Class size policy D6. Basically what this policy talks about is that we have a class size policy, class size set of procedures on the books that comply with the laws, ESA 242.5. Okay. That work with school boards and member districts to develop and implement policies regarding minimum and optimal class sizes for regular career technical education classes. The policy may be supervisory union-wide, may be course or grade specific, and may reflect differences among school districts due to geography and other factors. So basically it says that you will have a policy on the books that addresses class sizes, which we do. We have a policy, we also have procedures. If you would like to look at those, I believe you have that information, Nicole, that you could pass on to everyone.
Should be on the website.
It should be on the website, so if you would like to look at that while you're reviewing this, but we're in compliance. So. Okay?
Yes, we had a fairly active discussion on this policy,
We did,
Huh?
we did.
In terms of enrollments.
Hmm.
I guess that will be coming up probably in the next meeting in terms of class size.
Right, so CTE class sizes are actually in statute from AOE. And it's one of the easier ones.
Right.
It's easier than K-12 regular education.
Right.
But certainly, we can add additional clarity through procedure. Yeah.
And I don't remember what the changes were here, but they were more than just format. They did change some wording, and I can't put my finger on it right now. Okay. F1, travel reimbursement. This one, there's a choice in there as to how we do coverage of travel reimbursement, and it was, you could either do per diem, or you could do as actual cost, or you could do a combination. And those are the three that they laid out. We actually do a combination, and so this policy kind of specifies where that happens. Okay, and that we have administrative procedures on the books for method of prior approval, and the procedures that are the procedures that you go to for getting the reimbursement. Yeah, it's up here at the top. For school business on combination of actual cost basis and per diem by its employees, school board members, and volunteers. And so it could say actual cost basis or per diem or a combination, and what we use is a combination. So as I recall, it was meals or per diem and.
Yeah, some things we reimburse like an airplane ticket at the actual cost, but for meals and mileage, there's a rate at which you can reimburse.
Right. So we use a combination. Okay. And again, I'm sorry that, yeah, that's first reading, so please take the opportunity, and we'll have everything ready to go for the next meeting.
So next meeting we vote?
Well, we have to vote, well, it's two readings. We don't vote on the first reading, do we?
No.
So I think we only vote on the second reading to adopt the policy, so that's when the real discussion will take place.
Maybe for the next meeting, we can provide a stricken out version.
Yeah.
I think it would be a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah, I agree, but Patrice did a lot of work to get, because coming from the model policy, there's all kinds of verbiage in there that need to be sorted out, and she did a great job getting them down to policies that we could actually put in the manual, so I'll look through here and try to find that language and highlight it for everybody, so.
And I might be willing to help with that.
Oh, great, that would be helpful, because I know that those changes went through, I know they rippled through, ACSD is doing it right now, I think every district is doing them, so. I wish we could all get together, our VSBA, but it would be really helpful if they did that strike-through version, but they don't seem to be really interested in helping us with that. Okay? Okay. Well, that took a little longer than I expected, but.
Has VSBA put out any new policies regarding COVID? Does that come out at all?
I didn't see anything.
A little blurb in the free press today about what some of the other schools are thinking about doing and some of the changes. For instance, there won't be free test kits at the schools and things like that. So I think it's a conversation that, you may need to start thinking about as the school year is progressing. Unfortunately, so is COVID, but,
I think they're just following CDC guidelines.
yeah, that's what it looked like. But again, publicly having some sort of discussion about it, I think would be helpful.
That's all I have.
Okay. So there's no action on that at this time. Moving on to informational agenda, we have 2 new hires, and their resumes, work experience, and so on in your packet. you want to talk about that?
Becca, you want to talk about Candace?
Sure.
Thank you.
So Candace Jones comes to us from a medical billing background as well as 15 years of AP background at the Vermont Country Store. She recently started the day after Labor Day, so it was September 5th. And she's up and running and taking great notes and catching on quickly and providing me a lot of relief so far. So I'm very happy to have her.
And Julie was actually.
There's nothing
on this agenda that says what their position is.
She's the finance assistant.
Thank you.
And Julie E. Clark, she's our new teaching assistant, and she was actually recruited by Alyssa, who is a friend of hers, and we are so thrilled to have her on board. The kids love her. She's very magnetic personality. She's really good and patient with the kids. She has a sports and coaching background, so that really shines in the classroom. And she's really taken to, we have and a lot of the classes that go out in the field, and so she goes with the kids out into the field, and she spends a lot of time in natural resources, in Hayden's classroom, and in the Wood Tech classroom. So she's been doing great. We're thrilled to have her.
Is her purview, is it the special education, or just a general?
She's a general. She helps with our more risky and outdoor classes. And we still do have one position that's open that would be more focused on our special education classroom that has not been filled yet.
So, process question. At Mount the board's required to approve these hires, and it's usually put on the consent agenda, along with accepting resignations. I'm just curious about whether this was intended to be on the action agenda?
Yeah, I have the same question. I'm used to all personnel just being a single sheet of paper with everything listed and it just being on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
And this has apparently been, I didn't feel like I should switch midstream without a conversation, but since you're providing the opportunity, yeah, I'm used to putting hires on a consent agenda unless it's one that would require board discussion for some reason.
I actually thought that was state, a state.
It's definitely for licensed positions. On non-licensed positions, generally the superintendent can do it.
At the discretion of the administration. Okay.
So if that is something the board is willing to entertain, that would be my preference too, is to put it on consent agenda.
I mean, I believe in our district, we, superintendent, they approve the administrative staff, but we approve any other hires that are by contract, teachers.
By
and-
contract, that's the key, I think,
Yeah.
is the contract.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So I don't know where these two positions fall. Candace must be, she's an administrator.
She's an administrative assistant, yeah, she doesn't follow the contract.
But Julie's a teacher.
Julia would be, no, she's a teaching assistant. She's in,
So she's
Support staff.
the support staff.
Support staff.
right, so
Okay.
she's,
But she's being
Yeah.
covered by the support staff.
Yeah,
yeah.
so that'd be great.
Seems like that would be the.
Contract but not licensed, right? Neither one of these have to have a teaching license or a nurse's license or.
And Candace is not part of the contract, she's exempt.
Right, but Julie would be.
Yeah, Jen,
She has to have a license.
she's
No.
fully qualified.
No, we're saying that Julie is on the teaching side of things, but,
Candace?
Candace
Yeah.
is office support staff, so wouldn't need any sort of licensure.
But I thought the general conversation was what goes on the consent agenda and what requires further discussion.
Right.
I think consent agenda, I don't think there's a question if it's not covered by either the contract or licensing, but that should be on the consent agenda. I mean, that's the purview of the administration, they hire.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of staff that doesn't come before the board. I think it is licensed professionals and that may be it.
Like the ones that are under contract,
Yeah,
right?
well, under support staff contract, it also fall under.
Yeah, I think we approve support staff too. Depends on what you- I'm pretty sure we do.
It might be worth looking at their contract. Because, if they stipulate, but the board approves it, or the board has to be involved in the approval of hires.
I'm just used to the board approving through a consent agenda, except because really the only direct hire that you do is me, right? And then I hire the rest.
That's right.
So you technically do approve, but not to the level of looking at their resume generally. But I can, you know,
They're
it's the board's
provided
purview.
for information, but
Right,
it's not,
right,
we don't debate them in the
Right.
meeting.
yeah.
But this is in the informational.
Right, that's the
So-
question, like, how would you like to proceed? We can do it however the board would like. I just,
Maybe we want to put that on another agenda. Not an action item right now that you would
Sure,
think about.
you got it.
I mean, it seems like we should do what most of the other school, or what the other school districts.
Well, I think we should be clear about what the state in the contract
Right,
requires.
right, yeah.
So I think we want to bring that to the next meeting.
But then you can't delay the hiring process either.
It's
Sometimes
already
you
been
gotta
done.
delay
Yeah,
it.
it's done.
Yeah.
A lot of
No,
times-
that's what I'm saying, if we have to
Yeah,
agree and, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I'm moving on. It's,
Yeah, and that's usually why it's put on the consent agenda as well.
Right.
So we're not holding
people
anybody
have
up
already
for-
started
You
working.
gotta at least issue letters of intent and all sorts of things. But if we authorize the superintendent to issue letters of intent ahead of our approval,
Mm-hmm.
it goes that far, because we know that you can't hold up that
That's right.
process
Yeah.
right to get started.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Good conversation. Thank you, everyone. Board reimbursement process, I jumped the gun on that one, but if you have any questions about it, I think it's an important piece that you all understand. And Patrice has all the answers anyway. But where to direct the questions, I guess is the real reason. And next piece is board reports. Any questions about any of them? Any additions people want to add to the reports that maybe they didn't get a chance to clarify in their minutes? Pretty self-explanatory.
Pretty good, pretty good.
So yeah, thank you, sir. Kudos to all the note takers.
Yes, and the superintendent's report was most impressive.
Yeah.
Being
It was
27 pages.
Well, I think the weekly reports do
Yes,
really, really
They
help.
really are great.
They kind of wake us up like, oh, this
Maybe
good.
it's managed to talk to the league into adopting that process.
Yeah, that seems to be something that's working quite a bit anyway, so. Any questions about any of those reports? Okay, so then we reach public comment, which I understand we may have. Floor is yours. Anything you want to add?
I am at this point, just to me, looking for an answer that I can give to my students about the upcoming week. My understanding is that I'm currently barred access from completing a class that was just 2 weeks into its process. Equipment available here is the center of my curriculum. And abruptly they just leave. I'm not sure what the next appropriate step is, given my responsibility to my students. I am seeking an answer on that, given the promise that was made a year and a half ago, and a full year of successful holding of that promise on my part, and no fair warning of an abrupt shutdown. So I would ask that the board consider that decision that I have to make in regards to my students, and that I am in week 2, going on 3 of a 12-week semester. I will be okay. They will be okay. I'm looking
Do you have anything in writing? Is my question. Did you receive anything in writing in agreement to be able to use this facility and so on? Back here now. Do you have it?
I do.
We don't.
Okay.
That would be a very, very helpful piece of documentation.
And I'm happy to.
Our apologies for not having it, but again, we've had staff changes.
I was at a meeting with Nicole and Rebecca earlier this week,
Mhm.
and this topic was brought up, but the ask was never made for something that exists. You know, what exists? They asked to put together an MOU, and he handed a draft of an MOU over at that meeting.
Mhm.
And I think this is really pulling the rug out from under somebody who has done amazing work to bring awareness of the benefits of this facility to a wider audience. I'm shocked. I've been involved with this place since I was 4, downstairs in the daycare center. In 1988, I dropped all my classes senior year so I could be in Frank Kane's automotive class down there. And I started the makery with Dana within his first day or 2 days of being here, because I was so upset with economic development conversations, not acknowledging the importance of makerspace, not acknowledging the resource that's here that seems to be invisible to so many people in the community. And I'm worked up, I'm shocked. This is not this, I mean, drawing lines, hard lines for people that are supporting this institution is not the same as extending olive branches and welcoming. And I'm shocked and dismayed.
I've got a quick question, folks.
Go ahead, Bill.
Dan and Dave, if I recall, last spring, when you were teaching your class, Dan, you would come in at like 1 o'clock, and for the last hour and a half or so of the day, you actually had students from the Career Center who were taking classes in conjunction with your students at the college, correct?
Yes, the initial hope was that through an overlap of undergraduate college students with daytime career center students, we could start to build some connections that feel
Okay.
important.
So I just feel like I need to interject here that I need a point of clarification. What is being described is not accurate. What we were not interested in having is unsupervised students in the lab space. And that was what was told today, was students from Middlebury College may not be in the lab without their teacher present. And that was what we said could not happen. We are currently in conversation with Daniel and Middlebury College about what MOU we can put forward in order to safeguard the risk that the Hannaford Center is currently putting ourselves at, because we're currently putting ourselves at enormous risk. We have no written MOU that outlines this relationship. And, and while we are absolutely happy to continue those discussions, I am not comfortable having unsupervised college students in the laboratories when there is no administrator here on campus who knows what to do if there's an emergency. And that was the conversation that we had, and we're currently in the middle of the MOU. My going in position is that the class can continue this semester as long as we have a classroom teacher there supervising the Middlebury students. We need to have an MOU in place for second semester though, because we're really, this board and myself are putting a lot of risk on ourselves without any coverage.
May I make a point of order?
Yeah.
A memo of understanding, does that fall under contracts? I believe it does.
I would assume that, yeah, and a memo of understanding has to have board inclusion too.
Yes.
Right.
May I ask that the board confine its discussion to an executive session afterward, because this is a contract, and I would prefer to do it under those auspices, because it feels like there are things that the board does not know and needs to understand before we can continue this conversation in a public forum.
Right. I do want to just clarify that nobody's stopping the class right now.
Okay. Okay.
For Daniel's ask at this moment, as far as what to tell his students for this coming week, the answer is there's no more access to the building unless the teacher is present.
Correct.
And that's what's being passed forward. Now, curiosity, is that Daniel or is that any, I mean, you're saying it has to be someone who.
I think we're not really supposed to be continuing this.
Right.
Yeah,
conversation.
we really are not.
I think that's definitely something the executive session.
So can I make a recommendation as you go into executive session? So I think that an important part of what you guys are discussing needs to take into account your community partnerships. So that goes to local businesses, institutions, organizations, and individuals. And I would recommend that the most enthusiastic of those organizations and businesses and people that are willing to volunteer their time, energy, and effort is honored. And I don't know if I've seen that over the course of the few years that I've been involved in the Career Center. So as you go into this discussion, which obviously will have legal discussions and a lot of organizational discussions, I want all of you board members to think about what the Hannaford Career Center and its relationship with the community and its outreach to the community and its involvement with the people in the community is. And if you feel that's an important thing for the board to represent, please bring that to the table. From this side, it seems like it's just a legal matter, and I think in a small town with small businesses that need workforce development, that's not the right approach. So I'd encourage you to think broader.
Can you state your name, sorry?
Yeah, I'm Dave Castle.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Are you a student?
No, I have 2 kids in the district. One is in kindergarten, one's in 4th grade. I'm on the Economic Development Board, and I operate a business in the department.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. You want to add anything? Are you all set?
No.
Okay.
Daniel wants to say something.
To clarify, at this moment, I cannot assign any homework to my students, so I will not, and I will pause the course because I'm unable to proceed, and I'm unable with 2 young kids to attend the night sessions after my daytime responsibilities without a strain on my family that will be challenging. So I think my choice at this point would be to, that I would be forced to pause the course. And so all I would like to state is that I'm unable to teach the course without the structure that we worked diligently to build.
Dave, is there anybody in the makery who has been trained on all the machinery and knows what's going on in that room that could actually sit in on these classes and be acceptable to the school?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. So we've had real trouble at the makery getting the industrial tech lab open because it's a heavy lab. I don't really understand the difference between a woodworking shop heavy lab and an industrial tech heavy lab. But there's been resistance with Dana, and I thought this program was actually a great pilot to train Millbrae College students with a supervisor there who's trained. He's been working at my shop and is skilled in the use of the machines there, which are the same as the machines in the shop. So I thought there was going to be this was the pilot to train Millbrae College students. And my shop has also been open to those students as well. But once trained, then they can be mentors, and then we finally have the coverage that we needed to open up the industrial tech shop, the metal shop, or the CNC. It should be a CNC shop. To answer your question, there's probably one obvious choice for a person to cover that class, and it's me. Because I am a machinist by day, I am fingerprinted and background checked for the makery. And there may be others like me that would be willing to do that. I don't know how many. But that's a potential negotiation point. It is not my favorite time to still be at work, but I do love this stuff, and I really am taking a stand to make sure that people that want to learn this stuff can learn it if I'm present at my shop, and I can be here too.
Do we have a description of what that person has to do? I mean, I know you kind of mentioned what your skills are, but if we have a description, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have access, like, it's easy for me to know how to keep people safe and know how to operate that machine. I mean, I'm not an expert in Daniel's curriculum, so,
Yep.
I mean, he's really paved the way for this, so I would appreciate it if the board would figure it out in a way that's convenient for him. And then I'll find a way to participate when the maker opens the lab for real. I can be a
Where does that stand? Is the makery open now?
I'm going to call a point of order. I think any more discussion, we need to have an executive session, Bill. And not to cut you off, but I think it's important for us procedure-wise, because there is some other information that the board needs to know.
Okay.
So I'm going to thank you very much for attending. We are obviously taking consideration way more than what's happening with just your program, but others in the building. We represent all of the Sunday schools. We understand, the need for industrial, this type of training. We got that. I just want to let you know that before you do that. We got it.
Moment one.
Quickly.
Nicole mentioned that there's a risk to the equipment. And, if it were to go down because of Daniel's program, it would not be available to the daytime students. I have a machine just like the one that's there. I have offered, if it ever goes down, pull one out of my shop, we'll get a memorandum, that thing, and it'll be there as fast as you can get a forklift under it. So I think if we really look around and see what the assets are and what the abilities are of the group and of the community, I don't see how we can't make this work. And I hope you see that too.
Thank you. Thank you guys for attending.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
I don't suppose take a 5-minute, once we start executive, we'll 5-minute file.
Let me run the meeting, please. Policy 4.1 is next on the agenda. Anyway, I let the conversation go a little bit, but I think it's important that they hear some of the things that we do, because we're trying to educate them also. I think that's the other important part of the conversation. Volunteer? How'd the meeting go? Not liking it? Whatever.
I'll volunteer.
Go ahead.
My first comment. I know there was some disruption. We had a lot to cover. I think you did a great job moving the discussion to where it belonged. It's a little difficult that they had to sit through 2 hours of, discussion, and I kind of felt for them, but showing their commitment, I think there needs to be a way to solve these community problems as efficiently as we can, and I think letting them speak was probably appropriate. I don't know, but it seemed like the meeting was well organized and moved through a long list that was at first daunting, and I hope continuing on we can get through the rest of these issues. But I don't know if people agree with me on all that, but
What?
Thank you, Dan. We're on time. We're on the right time, by the way. So, if.
Kim, can I say one thing super quick?
Go ahead, Bill.
All right. If I look around the room, there are 4 new members of the board in the last year. It looks to me like there are at least 3 new employees, and we're kind of putting stuff back together and trying to figure out what happened before and what didn't happen. And I think things went well, but I don't know how we do this in the future so that we don't lose institutional knowledge and say, well, how did we do this before? What is the real policy for it? But, I think things went well tonight considering. It's good.
Thank you. So, looking for a motion to go into executive session?
I'll move to go into executive session.
Okay, so Nick, okay, and
For the purpose of-
For the purpose
Go right
of DSA 313A, topics requiring specific finding that premature general public knowledge will be clearly placed in public body or person involved has substantial advantage around contracts.
Thank you.
So we're talking about the MOU.
Okay. Say anything else? Thank you.